This episode of the Seventh Valkyrie Podcast is brought to you entirely by fan support. To help keep the series ad-free, get early access and bonus features, browse gear and apparel, join the community, or watch the series come to life in living color, you can check out the links in the description. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Seventh Valkyrie Podcast. I'm your host, Colin Sharp, and today, I guess it's sort of a follow-up to last week's. I ended the last podcast talking a little bit about the idea of sort of glitches in the human operating system, like how did these, we're kind of set up sometimes and programmed to build towards these conflicts, or at least we have been throughout history, and that's not ideal. I think what's so fascinating about people is that we're so unpredictable and so fucking predictable all at the same time. We are playing 20th century's greatest hits with the rise of new wave fascism. We're susceptible to like the most obvious propaganda in the world again. We're divided. There's a million ways that you can look at parallels, and just the U.S. is like, not the U.S., the whole world is like, wait a second, what about authoritarianism? Doesn't that usually work? And then we're like, oh my God, what happened? Oh no, let's all move back towards working towards freedom and liberty. Anyway, rant over, but I think part of all of that, those cycles that we have, I'm talking about glitches in the system. Like, I think it's ultimately the fact that despite all of our language and free will and all that, like, we are still meat bags, that are designed to eat as much as we can and, like, chase endorphins and pleasure, like, have sex as much as we can to create infinite children, and kill or injure anyone on the way that gets in our way. That's obviously we don't do that because we've come up with morality and we've taught people not to, but like left to our own devices, that's kind of what we do instinctively. For God's sake, we're the only species that has created multiple ways to wipe us, like our entire species, off the earth, like on accident. Like chemical, nuclear, biological weapons, like even global warming and overpopulation. Like fish are not capable of destroying the world, especially not like accidentally. It's a uniquely human thing. And it's kind of weird and fucked up a lot of the time to think about it, but it's also kind of interesting. That's a lot of what I talk about on this podcast, things that are kind of weird and fucked up, but also a little bit interesting. And like, I do find it fascinating that for all of our collective humanity and all the things we've learned and all the sophistications we've added and TikTok dances, like we are still so dominated by our emotional reactions and our instincts and like these physical reactions. Like, think about the last time you really lost your cool. For some of us it might be more recent than you think, but and then don't just think about that. Like, think about the last time you made a decision and woke up the next day and you were like, what? Why would any sane human do that? Why was that my response in that situation? And I think that's a lot more frequent for all of us. I've had it with impulsive purchases, with inappropriate jokes, with arguments and fights. When I was a lot younger, I had it a lot with me thinking below the belt rather than between the ears. And like, I think it's what's most interesting is just the fact that we are so good at outfeeling our brains. Like, we are so better at outfeeling our thoughts. Like, we're like, oh, I can outthink my feelings. No. We are so good at outfeeling, rational thought. And that's fascinating. Like, it is cool, the idea that in certain situations, the part of us, like the conscious brains, the person, that we identify as us, can just be totally overridden by a part of us that is way more physical than it is mental. And I think that part of that uncertainty is kind of the fun of the human experience. Like, every sci-fi movie ever has taught me that, we're humans and not machines, and like that means we're flawed and weird, but also capable of incredible things. We're also inherently selfish and inherently unable to control ourselves, but that uncertainty and chaos makes it kind of fun. Like, I don't know. We can still surprise everyone in the right situations, even ourselves. And, again, that's how we always beat the AI menace in sci-fi movies. I don't know. I don't think that sci-fi movies are how we should judge the value of things, but maybe all those unpredictabilities aren't a bug in the system. Maybe they're a feature. Maybe they're what makes us, human and interesting and has allowed us to create such joy and beauty, is because sometimes we are just awful, and not even because we really want to be, because we're just impulsive meatbags. So anyway, sometimes it can feel a little hard to look on the bright side of all these glitches in the system when there are multiple wars going on and terrible things going on around us. And that doesn't mean that it's just like, oh well, war happens, like gotta have war to have good movies. But I think it bears worth thinking about that. Like, I would never wish for us to all be robots and emotionless and perfectly rational creatures, because then we're just machines. So, like I said, that's what every sci-fi movie told us not to wish for. Anyway, that is my combination of thoughts for today. Hope you guys have enjoyed this little treat for your ears, and I hope that you guys have a good weekend. Take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Seventh Valkyrie Podcast, which is brought to you entirely by fan support. To help keep the series ad-free, get early access and bonus features, browse gear and apparel, join the community, or watch the series come to life in living color, you can check out the links in the description.